Alright, part two. Just going to go over the library panel over here. So I just brought this model in here. Basically, just this model is just poly painted, and the same procedure from the first part. Enable the linking in both applications. Click the BPR, bang, model comes across the Keyshot. Poly paint information is transferred also. So just a couple of quick tips. Hotkeys, spacebar will toggle your project pane over here, and M toggle your library over here. Well, M is the shortcut for materials, but it's going to bring up the whole library. You can also find them up here. You can find everything really here, up here as well. So there's the settings from the from settings. I'll get into the rendering in a different video probably. Camera environment, it's all here, you know. So we'll concentrate on this panel over here. So our first tab is materials. I'm going to talk about that probably last. I'll just do these other ones because materials take a bit more time. Colors, these are all just they're basically accurate colors, you know, from these Pantone, RAL. They're specific kind of colors. If you're looking for them, they're not just you know, pull up the color wheel and pick a color that you think you like the look of, but these are all actual sort of, I don't know, if you went into a paint shop or whatever to get a tin of paint and all the colors of a code and blah blah blah, it's the same sort of deal here, but don't really use them, just whatever, pick your color, pick your poison. Right, environment now, by default you don't have all these ones. You'll have most of them, but I've added in the omens here, so you can load them over here, or you can just grab whatever HDRIs you have and just dump them into Keyshots. You can see here, I'll just I'll hover over one of the you can see here it's in users, Danny documents, Keyshot environments, Judy, and there they are there. So if you just use the same path and drop your own ones in, you can have as many as you like. So it's very simple. As I said earlier on, if you go over here to environment, this is our default startup HDR. It's just a drag and drop job. So drag, drop, and you know, we're going to be lighting here with this environment here. It pops up over here. So as I was saying earlier on, I don't like to work with the it obviously helps to integrate them all better, you know, and when you render, this won't render out, but it's up to you, whatever you prefer, but I don't like having them in the background, so I usually just go to a dark color or even a black. So that's that. So yeah, as I say, drag drop, and you'll get your environment lighting. So, you know, outdoors, indoors, it has them. You can drop your own ones into any of these folders, or just bang them into environments, into the parent folder, whatever you prefer. So you have our exteriors, our interiors, and then you have the studio panel setups. This one here actually can be quite handy. This it just has one light source, because what you can do is you can set up a 3-point lighting setup with this. So if you're rendering out light and passes, you could drop this one in, and then, you know, you can just set it where you like. We'll say, we'll move that over a bit more. We'll say we want this as our key light here, so we'd render that pass, then we'll rotate it around to this side. You know, then you could drop your brightness, change your contrast, and you can even go in here and select that pin, change the color. So, you know, you might want, yeah, a blue key light, whatever, a yellowish sort of a fill, and then a red rim or whatever. Just your bog standard 3, 2, whatever point lighting setup you want. So it's just a quick way of doing it. You can also bring geometry in and apply emissive light materials to the geometry, and say bring in a plane, a square, like just a plane or rectangle or any shape you like, bring it in, and that'll emit light. We can use that as an emissive light source. So whichever you prefer. Alright, back in a minute. So that's the basics of environments. It's very straightforward, as I said in the first video. It's all just a drag and drop affair. So that's environments. Backplates. These are going to be. I'll drop that in, and it's automatically going to switch back here to backplate, and it's going to change our resolution to the resolution of whatever you dragged in. But you can see if you were rendering a car or something, you might want to, if you have a backplate, and just like IBL light, and you have a backplate and you have a HDR environment for lighting and reflections, you match the two of them up. You could even use this to get an idea of how it's going to look, and then if you're going to composite it somewhere else. But it's just, the option is there, but it ain't for me. So we'll jump back to just go back to a black background. So that's all. Same with environments. You can drop your own backplates in here. They're just going to be JPEGs or whatever. Drop them into the folder. Same location or as the environment. Right, textures. These can be very, very handy, and the same thing as backplates and environments. You can drop all your own in, and into folders and subfolders in here. And when you have a material on, if your model does have UVs, you can choose to use the UV coordinates or the unwrap that you have, or else you can just use the likes of box and planar XYZ. I think the box mapping, it's actually pretty good. I think it does a triplanar projection. I'm not sure, because you rarely see seams, noticeable seams on corners from the different projections. So I think it's some sort of blended box mapping or triplanar projection. So that's textures. Now you have the same here, your folders and subfolders, bump maps, color maps, gradients, and we thought I dropped in, Keyshot 4 had way more than Keyshot 5, but I thought I dropped in all the Keyshot 4 in here, but you can see, there's still a fair few to get going. So if you wanted to fire off a render pass, and not photo manipulate in Photoshop to match up whatever you wanted, rust or metal or whatever, stone, you can just drop them in here and get a good head start from your render pass. So these are all the texture maps, and Keyshot 5 has actually added procedurals. I'll show you, and I think even in 5.1 now there's even more, but I'll show you them now, because we're going to go to materials. So that's all these other tabs. There's very little to them, not a huge amount to know. So materials, here we have all our different libraries. Exalted, these are like, these used to be called, what were they called? They were called something else in Keyshot 4, but it was this exact same materials. They're just all sort of glossy materials and blurred materials. I think it's the same as these Pantone colors. It must be some sort of product-based materials or something, similar to the mold tech. Now these mold tech in 5 you won't get. It's the same thing. I dropped all the mold techs, the extra ones from Keyshot 4 in here, because it was much less in 5. But these are all like rubbers and stuff like that. These are an industry product as well, I'm pretty sure. And I think now in 5.1 as well, there's the same type of library, product-based library, real-world product-based library with letters, more than you get here. There's not a great selection here, so that's something to look out for. Right, so that's Exaltus. Cloth and leather. yeah, here's all the basic libraries that you're going to get. Um, so what we'll do is, because this bloke obviously is a bloke, we'll come down to translucent, and you see you have these are all your subsurface scattering materials. So two types of human skin. I'm going to drag this human skin on. Now it's drag and drop, but you can see in Keyshot 5 you couldn't do this in 4. You get a pop up there, hold alt to retain textures, and control to retain labels, or alt and control to retain both. So I didn't actually, before I do that, I just want to where's labels again? Labels are actually, I don't really use them that much, but materials, I thought they were in textures. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, labels. Basically labels are opacity mapped, you know, so if I drag it on, let's drag it on like that. Usually you drag it on as like a sticker or a logo or whatever, you know, so it's gonna have an opacity map, so it's PNG file, so it's gonna have transparency baked into it. So say for instance you were doing render passes of a mech or robot or something, and you know, all the usual warning signs and yellow and black stripes and all that sort of stuff, do not place hand here or whatever. You can drop all these on here in 3D and it'll snap to the surface normal. So rather than try to pull them around in Photoshop from 2D images and try to match up the perspective and all the rest, you can just create a library of them here for whatever you're working on, drag them on, and that'll be that. Right, so back to materials. As I say, translucent, human skin, and I'm going to hold down alt and drag it, and it's going to keep me poly paint information. Now the SSS materials, obviously because of the complexity of it, you know, the way they have to be rendered, same in any render, it's going to take longer to clean up. So you can see this, I don't know if you can see it in the recording, but it's like a grid, tiny real fine grid pattern, and that can take quite a while to clear up. And you might think if you've cleared it up here in the preview, you might grab a screen printer, render out, go into Photoshop and then zoom in, and you'll notice that it's still sort of there. So just something to be mindful of. Right, so materials, as I said earlier, if you come over here to the material tab, you'll see these are our materials that are in the scene. So I can either double click on this and it'll open up the material editor for that material, or I can, you know, if you have a million materials in your scene, you can't remember which is which, you can just right click on the model, edit material. Now you also have copy, unlink, all these other things. Unlink is quite important when you have many objects, many different materials, because sometimes you'll be dragging and dropping and saying what the hell's going on, and materials are changing, and ones you put onto one mesh is changing and it goes to a different one. It's annoying you, but because it's linked. So if you drag a load of materials onto a group of models, they all have the same materials and the materials are linked, so you can unlink them from this right click menu, or you can come up to scene. Let's say we can select from here, and then that's going to select our bloke here, and if you come down here to properties, you have the same edit material, unlink material. So that's another handy way to get there, or else you can just you can select the top of your tree and then just shift select all. So say you have 20 objects here, shift select all of them, and then come down here and unlink or link. Link will show up here if they are already unlinked, and just unlink them. Just something to bear in mind. Anyway, I'll just right click edit material, and here is our translucent material. So surface color, yeah, pinky skin, subsurface color, color of the skin as the light passes through. Translucency is the power, or sorry, the strength of the subsurface effect. So you can see here it's quite waxy. I'll drop that down to 1. It goes towards diffuse. and you know, obviously going up, it's going to send it into the jelly realm of jelly. So depending on the character, you know, whether it's a cartoon character or whatever it happens to be, or it could be a character with a shell that you still want to have some subsurface scattering, but not that much. You know, you can play with this up and down, and the great thing is it's quick to see. It's going to take longer to clean up, but you know, you get almost an immediate idea of what you're going to be looking at in the final render. So I'll just put that back down to 5 for that particular material. These are all presets, obviously, so for that one it's defaults of 5. Specularity is your reflection, so at the moment it's set to 1, and their specular color is pure white. Our glossiness now by default, let me see, by default, it is going to, if you go up here to preferences, where is it again? Because I've only done it once, and then interface, project folders, plugins. Sorry, I can't remember. Basically, it's in here somewhere. Interface. Oh, Jesus Christ! Probably staring straight at it, but I can't see it. Where the hell is it? Oh, sorry, here it is. Yeah, see this checkbox? Use gloss instead of roughness for materials. Well, it defaults at roughness. Some renderers will call blurry reflections. You know, they'll use roughness. Another one, such as the one I use, V-Ray, will use glossiness. So it's the same thing. It's just reversed. So the lower your glossiness, the rougher your material. The higher your roughness, the lower your glossiness. So it probably sounds confusing, but you know, whichever one you prefer to use. I use glossiness because it's what I use in V-Ray. So if we had a glossiness of 0 to 100, I can go even higher again, but you know, it's going to be mirror like, and that was, I think, defaulted at 26. So that was, you know, for that particular material. You can see it's broken up. The reflections made them blurry or less glossy or more rough. So not a huge thing. I'm probably after confusing people by even mentioning that, but just in case you open up Keyshot and say, hang on a second, why how can you gloss or rough? Well, that's why. Then we've our index of refraction. That's basically our Fresnel fall off. So 1.3 to 1.35, whatever would be sort of considered the refraction index of refraction for human skin. So that's what it defaults at there. You can play with that, but you're probably better off just leaving it at the default 1.3, between 1.3 and 1.35. Samples, the sampling quality in the preview, and then GI, you can turn on GI for the skin. So that's basically the settings. You know, there's not really many settings, and it does, as you can see, it gives a nice result. If I go over here to textures, you can see it's not showing up here. It's showing up here, but not here. This is this. You can see here map type using the regular Keyshot. None of this is going to exist because you don't have the bridge, obviously. So what I was saying earlier on, you know, UV coordinates. This bloke does actually have UVs, and I could set that here if I wanted it, but it's automatically being done with this Mac cap text setting, you know. And here's all your other cylindrical, spherical, box map, and the planar projections. So that's all been set up for us with the bridge. Scale, you're not going to want to touch. This is basically tiling. If you're using a tile texture, you're obviously not going to want to touch it for this texture. But if you're using a tile texture, you can lower the scale to increase the amount of times it's tiled. This will offset it in the X and Y. Now these will generally as well, brightness and contrast settings. If these are tile and textures to sync. You'll want to sync it so that if you're tiling, um, if you have similar maps for your color specular bump, etc., you want to sync these up, so if you change one they all change together. Repeat, that's just repeat edge pixels, or and it reaches the end of the map, which doesn't
pause this
apply
here,
in this case.
I'll flip horizontal
Go over
some of
you
that
might
stuff
have to
and
do
I'll go
this
over the materials
no,
or the
actually
library,
do it
sorry, the
automatically, but if
library
you're important
pane,
OBJs,
next
you know
video.
the way Zbrush
Alright,
sometimes
cheers,
flips
thanks. Good luck.
UVs. So that is, that's texture. So, and then when you click on each individual texture, so this is our color map, spec bump, none loaded, but I could load these in, or what you can do is if you have textures in your library here. So for instance, I've no bump map here. So if I come down to bump, I thought that if I come down to bump here, I could just grab, say if I had a skin bump that I wanted to put on him, I can just come over to my library here. I'm just going to grab this just to make it obvious. Sorry, drag it over to the bump channel. And is that showing up? Lower the scale. It is showing up there, yeah. And it's a normal map, so you want to check this box here. I'll just increase this. You can see it there showing up. Just increase this to a crazy amount, and you can see what I was talking about. It's projecting it using a box map, but it's you can hardly see any stretching or smearing. Considering this a tile texture, so I think it's doing some sort of triplanar or blended box map and projection. So we can turn that off. But right, so that's the basics of materials. Particularly sort of concentrating on this, but if you come up here to this drop down, you have all these different material types. So the advanced, that's going to be like your mental ray arch or design material, or your V-ray advanced material. It's the same thing. It's a basic starting point to create a material from. And remember, a Keyshot is a physically based render, so all the materials are energy conserving by nature. So if you raise your reflection strength or reflection qualities, it's going to detract from your diffuse qualities, and vice versa, and the same refraction or transparency. So some people, when they start to use energy conserving materials in physical renders, they're kind of what the hell's going on? That's not the color of my map, but that's the reason why. So they all have to add up to 1. They can't add up to greater than 1. Not in these numbers, but in so if you have 0.5 diffuse in a material that has reflective qualities, you have to have 0.5 reflection, or 0.7 reflection, 0.3 diffuse. So you can't, or you can't go above that 1, or it's going to break that energy conserving law. Right, so enough with the boring blah blah blah. We just want to drag and drop, and that's what you can do. So we look at some more of these materials here. The metals. A lot of the time I find myself using the metallic paint materials rather than the actual metals. I'm going to just drop in a different environment here. I like this one down here. I love Paris in the springtime. It's an old one I have years, but I find myself using it a lot, because I like it. As I say, so I thought I was doing. As I say, I find myself using the metallic paint a lot more than the metals, the dedicated metals. But it depends what I'm doing, of course. But you have a huge amount, crazy amount of metals here, and then you can break it. They break down into subcategories here, and the rollout. Zinc, titanium, steel, blah blah blah, old, You know, there's all your own materials scratched and whatnot. So yeah, there's some nice ones here as well. Um, so you can mess around, play with them, drag and drop to your heart's content. It's all very simple stuff. You don't really have to know too much about material creation, just a couple of basic. So I'm going to right click here, edit material. A couple of basic. So for instance, see this one here. All this has a color map and a bump map, and even the properties. Look, there's nothing you can change. There's the diffuse map. You can blend it with this color if you want, which it's doing. It's not a true blend like you might get with a V-Ray blend material. Which is one thing that's I really hope they add it in future versions of Keyshot is a dedicated blend material, so we can stack nest shaders and create much more powerful shader trees. So all this has is, you know, the glossiness or roughness as it would be from default. So yes, that is pretty much it for materials. I think I might leave it at that. Yeah, just there's a yeah. I think I'll leave it at that. And I might do another video. Or just over the 20-minute mark here now. So I hope you. I'm sure I missed a few things, but this is all the basics you're gonna need to get yourself up and running. It's all fairly simple to get pretty pictures out there. So nearly as pretty as this handsome chap here, Metalhead. Alright then, that's alright. Cheers, thanks, good luck.